Hey everyone, welcome back here to my channel where I play Planet Zoo. My name is Nisse and today we are building for the Common Chimpanzee here in future Life Africa. So if you want to hear how I built this habitat, and yes, this is one big habitat, so if you want to see how I built that, or simply just learn a little bit about what people do out in the real world to try and save these chimpanzees, then please keep watching. Okay guys, we clearly have a lot to do today, and let's just start with the elephant in the room. This video were supposed to go out last Wednesday, but you didn't get any video, and that's simply because this should just be a little chapter in our future life project. But the thing is that I took about the double amount of time to build the habitat than I normally do. And I think it's partially because I built a lot, and partially because I changed my mind several times doing this build. That happens sometimes. That's just, how my brain works. If I don't like something, I have to change it every time. There's no way around it. If I don't like the habitat, I need to change it. There is sometimes some things that I actually realize later and then go in and make small fixes where I normally don't tell you, but I show you when we take the final zoo tour. And this time around we just have a lot of changes through doing the build. One being that the water I actually making ready to do here, I actually removed later. I intended this habitat to be much smaller, as you saw, but the game wants chimpanzees to have around 2,000 square meters of land, and they're not gonna get that, so I actually don't get a full group. I get a large group, but I don't get all of the entire group that you possibly could have. So yeah, we again just constantly changing things around, doing things differently, new ideas. I also took a thinking break at one point. Always a good thinking break with some snack or a lunch or something like that. That's always good when I build. But it just takes time. And at the same time, when it just comes to editing, because I have been building for so long, there was just more things than editing. One being that normally sometimes I can just split the entire build up at the same time, but this time I actually spent some things up 3 times, some things 5 times, some things 7.5 times, and some things 10 times. So again, lots of code, a lot of editing compared to what I'm used to, and I love making my videos. I don't want you to feel sorry in any way. I'm so blessed I get to make these, but I hate the editing. I love the voiceovers, I love the build of it, I love researching these animals, but the editing, cutting and clipping and figure out how much to speed which part of it, so it's really a drag, and I think it took me 2 hours to get through it. And I just took it in one stretch because otherwise I just felt like if I stopped I would never get back to it. So yeah, it kind of was a hassle to do, but now I'm ready to record the voiceover, as you can hear, and I'm just so happy about it. And don't take me wrong, I love this habitat and I really do love making these videos, and I really love that you guys want to see them, so thank you so much for that. But after that project, I just ran into research mode, and I really want the research I do to be the right research. I don't want to just look up animals and just give you whatever I find. It's fine for me to do maybe in some videos, but especially because it's a future life project and I really want to tell you what real life people do to save these animals, then it's so important for me to actually do my research, read these things and get into it. And my brain just wasn't ready for that at that point. I just needed a couple of days to get away from this project so I could get back to it with newfound energy, and that I'm here now, and that's what we're gonna go. So yeah, you missed the video this Wednesday, I'm sorry. But again, I have a lot of videos out there, and I doubt even one of you guys have seen every single one of my videos. I really doubt it. So I hope it's something we can live with and move on from. So yeah. Anyway, hey to all of the new guys. I'm sorry you're gonna start out with such a rant, but yeah, sometimes I'm just ranting and I'm sorry about it, but it's just I don't know how to stop myself. I'm real sorry, but I'm glad all of the new guys are here. I'm also glad all of the old guys are here, and I'm just glad we are here and we are ready to learn a little bit about conservation projects with the common chimpanzee, also known as the chimpanzee. But because it is such a long video, I don't want to just hurl a lot of information at the same time. So we will go a little backwards and forwards, talking about the build, talking about the information and so on, so it don't get too dry. So right here we are building inside the house. It is the same as the lemurs, and I will just mention, for me, the house for any kind of monkey or ape is extremely important, especially because when I was a kid, a lot of zoos actually only had indoor habitats for these kinds of animals. I'm not sure if they were able to get outside, but I certainly didn't see it. So I just find it extremely important that they could have a nice indoor, especially because based on where you are in the world, in this case we are in Africa, sometimes the climate just don't allow the animals to go out. Maybe they can, but they will not choose to sit out in too rough of a weather. They would rather be inside, so it's important that they can climb around inside. They could be fit inside, and they can survive just staying inside and don't need to go out if they don't want to. Of course we want them to, but I just wanted it to do this in a specific way. One thing I also decided right away, and one thing that I actually stuck with, that I decided for early in the process, was the fact that I wanted it to kind of feel like it was a part of the lemur habitat, like it was kind of the same, just continuation. Also why I only wanted water in the middle of that. So it will just seems like it's two islands that are really, really near. So I want to use the same kind of climbing. Of course it will be bigger, but I will, for instance, use the same wood here. And I will just kind of try to make it feel like it's one big panorama habitat when you look at it that way. It's also a really big habitat, and therefore you may not be able to see the chimpanzees right where you stand, but because there will be plenty of ways to turn back to it later without actually having to go back, then there's a pretty big chance that at least at some place you will see them. For instance, at the end of this habitat, it will be our big food court down there when we get around to it. So you can sit there, but it will not be like a big flashy habitat viewing area. It will just be like a seating area where you can just glimpse in at the chimpanzees. We also have the bridge, and we also have this big view in the front. We make a more open area, and we make a more closed tropical area. A lot of climbing in here because again it is chimpanzees. At this point I have already said chimpanzees a lot of times, and as you know, if you play the game, these are named as common chimpanzees, and that is also their most used name in like what's it called, official terms, if we can call it that. But they are also known as the just chimpanzees, robust chimpanzees, and chimps. And as you can hear already, I am primarily using chimpanzees because it's the easiest one for us all to understand and know what I'm talking about. These are, of course, primates of the pan genus. I'm not gonna go through all of it because again, we have talked so much about this on my channel at this point, but the pan genus is the specific genus with the bonobo, the common chimpanzee, the western chimpanzee, central chimpanzees, eastern chimpanzees, and Nigeria, Cameroon chimpanzees. What is kind of funny is if we take a step out of that, again, that was 6 species. We look at the family of the Hominidae. We go with the Homo or Homi, like animals, and some of us have known the idea of the Homo sapien for quite some time now. So this is animals that are extremely closely related to us. More specifically, the Hominidae family holds 4 different genus, one being Pan, which is the one we talk about today, one being Gorilla, which is all of the gorillas, one being Pongo, which is all of the orangutans, and then we have the Homo genus, which is again Homo sapiens or Homo sapiens sapiens, human and historically human-like animals that actually have been very close to our gene pool but have gone extinct at this time. There is a few of them as far as I remember. And I do believe that's why I personally get a little bigger hole in my stomach when I talk about them, because any kind of ape in this family, because they are so closely related to us and their demise may be caused by us. But again, the biggest human killer on the planet is also the human, so yeah, I don't know what I expected, to be honest. And just for good measure, the chimpanzee that we talk about today is the Pan troglodytes, I think, or dutus. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but that's the best I can do. These are kind of, the chimpanzees you see around in zoos or in Africa or whatever. A lot of the chimpanzees are very much alike. You have the bonobo, that's not actually a chimpanzee, but also a pan ape that is a little different. And we also have, I believe it's the western one that is a little differently, but most of these have the same features. They have this elongated rounded mouth area and this very, very straight mouth lip line. I'm not sure what else to call it, just going across all of the mouth area. And they have a really, really big part. If you look at us as humans, we have cheeks on the side and mouth on the front, where the chimpanzees mouths actually go from side to side and kind of into where our cheeks would be. This helps them eat much bigger things, of course, but also use their jaw to rip open and help them open different kind of fruit. Now I will start to look a little bit here of the IUCN Red List, and I will just mention that this article have last been updated March 24th, 2016, so it is possible that some things that I state now have gotten new research or new information, or hopefully the numbers have gone up since then. But I can only give you the information that I actually can get, and I'm sorry, I would love to give you more than that, but it doesn't seem possible for me at this point. And with that said, I will just say they do not have a specific number for individuals in the wild, neither maturing or just in general, but their numbers are currently decreasing, and furthermore, the population of mature individuals are declining. These are 2 different numbers. You have the entire species number and then mature individuals. The mature individuals is the most important number because that are the part that are able to breathe. A lot of young chimpanzees can die before being able to breathe, and therefore they will not help with the overall population in the future. However, luckily they are still native to a lot of countries here between. We have Angola, Burundi, Cameroon, Central African Republic, Congo, the Democratic Republic of the Côte d'Ivoire, Equatorial Guinea mainland, Gabon, Ghana, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mali, Nigeria, Rwanda, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Sudan, Tanzania, United Republic of Uganda. And then we have possibly extinct, which means they can be there. They were there at a time, but we're not sure if they are still there. And that would be Benin, Burkina Faso, and Togo. They stay within the tropical climate zones, and for biomes we look at the forest, rainforest, and montane forest, of course, but also places like savanna and woodlands, which is why I try to give them actually quite a few different biomes in here, where we have the very, very tropical forest at the end. Then we have kind of a little open woodland in the back, and then we have in the front on this side here, we'll have the very, very open, more savanna-like biome with a lot of grasses and such, just to give them all of the opportunity to do all of it. I will mention what I do here is actually cheating the game, because the chimpanzees should not be able to go down here. So I use these to just block off. As you can see here, it affects the travelable area. So use that to just go in and say, no, you cannot walk here. It only works in the game, it wouldn't work in real life, but because the guests and the workers are bound to the path, it doesn't matter what you put on the path, they will still walk on the path. So this is just an easy game an easy way to trick the game if you have issues like I have sometimes. Down here again, I want to make this wall to make the tropical area as enclosed as possible, both because I want the guests to be able to just be here and not have this, like if you sit here and relax, you don't want people to just line up and goggle in at the animals right here, but kind of make it seems like they are a part of the scenery, which I think is very, very nice when zoos does things like that. And again, at this point, you would, no matter which way we went around, already have been able to see the chimpanzees. So if you have seen them, you will not line up either down here to see them. And you can clearly also see from here, if you haven't seen the chimpanzees, that you can go around and watch them without disturbing people eating their lunch or whatever they do down here. Before we can talk about solution for the chimpanzees, we of course need to figure out what is the issue that we need a solution for, and we have a few. One being simple housing and urban areas. Again, as the human population expands, we take more and more place away from other animals, and these animals also include the chimpanzees, but are not limited to. We also have the issues with mining in the areas, quarrying. We also build roads and railroads. Sometimes we build roads and railroads for the mining and the quarrying. And we also have farms with crops that also, again, roads and railroads. And we have a lot of things simply just going on in these areas that is noisy, and it disturbs the animals in the areas, and it can really drive them out of their own homes. Sometimes because you put down the forest to make room for these things, but sometimes simply just for building these things near forest and just being too noisy for the chimpanzees. And I will just mention quickly the fence I built here. What's it called? Electric fence part of it is from a mod. I have a playlist with all of my prop mods where you can see where it's from. It is the red symbol. I think it's the African Safari prop pack, but I'm not completely sure. Anyway, all of these issues can affect other issues such as habitat shifting and alteration. But these are not again limited to because of these issues. These can also be things as simply, and I know it's not simply, but climate change. It's just simply an issue. Period. Climate change is an issue for all of the animals, and therefore it's just simple when you look at animals' issue to just yell climate change, because it's an issue for all of them. When that's said, I will just like to add that because it's an issue for all of them doesn't diminish any of the other issues. The other issues are still there and are still something that should be looked at. We also harvest a lot of things in these areas, and it can be something as timber, which again take the forest, but it can also be annual crops such as wheat or cabbages or pretty much everything you eat. These things doesn't need to be something that you go to the forest to collect, but it can be simply growing on fields that you remove part of the forest to make sure it's there. Also, chimpanzees are not completely climbable animals. They do go on the ground, and if there's just a field around the forest, then the farming equipment can also really hurt these animals. One issue we talk a lot about when we talk about canines and cats is the fact, and bovines actually also, that they can get a sickness from domesticated livestock, where the domesticated livestock we go and take to the vet, they get better, but the virus is still out there. For these animals, they will not most likely be sick from your dog or cat, but they can become sick from us again. We are really close related, and therefore there is some viruses that we can carry, put out in the forest, give these animals, and again, these animals do not go to the doctor. So if they get anything, it can be even the slightest small little everyday sickness where we take a pill and we take a nap and then we're fine. It can, in worst case, kill these beautiful creatures, and it's something that you should be very much aware about. Also, why sometimes in zoos they have specific regulations about sickness when you work with these human-related animals, because some of these diseases can be carried over, and it works both way. Also, why we are extremely careful with quarantining these animals when we bring them in, and also with the people who works with the quarantine animals. One thing that I always find kind of common as an issue when we talk about African and also Asian, but African animals in general, is the trade. A lot of animals are used in traditional medicine, or simply just carving their bones into some little trinket you can sell to the tourist or something. But that's not an issue here, and I will actually read this part up specifically, which says use and trade. Chimpanzees are completely protected by national and international laws in all countries of their range, and it is therefore illegal to kill, capture, or trade in live chimpanzees or their body parts, which is just something I love. Again, there could be illegal hunting of them, but laws and regulations on these areas often can help people just be more aware of not doing it. There have been for years research about these beautiful animals, and therefore of course there are actions in place for in-place research and monitoring. More specifically, the research. We have seen these both books and documentaries and so on of people actually going out in the jungle to these animals and research them. That's not news for any of us, but there is not monitoring in place for these animals specifically. Animals that are released are monitored, and yes, they are again researched, so we take note of where they are and such, but we don't have camera on them. We do not capture them to put trackers on them or anything like that. And for some animals it would be great to do, for some animals it wouldn't. And again, chimpanzees would probably just pick it off if they don't want it to be on them. But this is also the point where some of these countries do not know if they are extinct or not, because they do not have this specific observations monitoring system in place. There also are both land and water system management and protection in place. This is extremely important. Once again, they do get a lot of sicknesses and diseases, especially for us, so we need to be sure that we don't leave any of our bacteria in the water they drink. And we also need to make sure that their water also clean for mining or whatever else of bad shit we put in the environment in these areas. It should never come at the cost of the animals. Furthermore, of course, they also have free range to live in different kinds of protected areas. These can be combined with protected areas where a lot of other animals that live in the same biomes and habitats. But the important part in this case is that there are protected areas where these chimpanzees can live freely. Keep in mind that they are already protected and illegal to hunt for any reason, so they shouldn't need it, but it's just a great bonus that it's there. Something I don't often go into because we simply don't have the time, but we have today, is that the IUCN Red List, again, link for everything below, have an entire section for just different stuff. For instance, they have their library, of course, but then they also have link to images. They have link to what is it they call it, is cities illustration from Species Plus, where you simply can go in and read specific rules, local cities and areas that have the animals. What is the rules for them? Specifically here it says in January 22nd 2018 in Liberia they had made the city notif number 2018-012 all commercial trade and specimen of cities listed species where these are under. And we also have from April 5th 2022 in Guinea, where we have all commercial trade in specimens of cities listed species with the exception of the export and import of a stockpile of pre-convention specimens of, and then a lot of technical words. But you can go in specifically if you want to understand these rules more and read more about it. And more specifically and more importantly from what I'm gonna go into now, we have the studies and action from conservation and evidence. And it's important to notice not all of this are specifically for chimpanzees, but things that we can learn from other animals. I found that, for instance, one of these research are in orangutans about releasing animals from captivity, born in captivity, and releasing those to the wild. This is important. Again, orangutans and chimpanzees are very close related and have some of the same manners, the same reaction systems, and you can learn a lot. Would you learn a lot if you took evidence from or research from a cat or something like that? Probably not, but because these are very similar in just the way they work, it is very, very potent that it could work. We also have some of specific for these chimpanzees. And this is actually quite interesting because for the orangutan, it was about taking animals from captivity and introducing them to the wild. Here it's actually about taking animals from the wild, saving them from the wild, and then re-releasing them later on. Specifically, it's about what you do when you find a orphan chimpanzee. And this specific article I'm gonna go into, it is also linked below, but you can also find it on the IUCN Red List in the bottom with all of those links. It is a study called Successful Reproduction in Wild Release Orphan Chimpanzees Troglodytes, and its published source detail is Goossens B, Sichel GM, Windel C, Diambaka E, and Jamard A, and it's from 2003. And under action, it just says this study is summarized as evidence of the following: reintroduce primates to habitats with predators. And this is very important. If you cannot reintroduce an animal to an area with predators, then it will never be able to live in the wild. Then we have the next point is treat sick injured animals. Next up we have conduct veterinary screens of animals before reintroducing, translocating them, and allow primates to adapt to local habitats conditions for some time before introducing to the wild. Reintroduce primates and the last one is reintroduce primates into habitat where the species is present. So all of this will happen or have happened over time. This is a study that went from 1996 to 2001, but it's still very much important because animals doesn't change nature over time. They do not have TikTok trends that makes the entire population stupid for a few years. Nope. Most animals don't change their nature just like humans have a tendency to do. But over this study, it was noticed that 36 wild-born orphan chimpanzees that have, again, they will, I will just clarify, they are orphan. They have lost their parents in the wild. Then human took them in, took care of them till they are big enough to take care of themselves. Then they were introduced on an island without any native chimpanzees, which means they do not have to compete with other chimpanzees on these islands. And it was found that 26 of them did survive the first 1 to 5 years. 3 of them were found dead and not killed by predators, and the remaining 7 are not accounted for, which is they could either have disappeared, lost their tracker, all of that, or they could have died or been eaten or something. So with this, we have a success rate over 5 years for between 72 at the least and 92 at the most. And I just want to remind you, there were limited opportunities for these chimpanzees. If they have been left on their own accord in the wild when they lost their parent, they would 100% have died. Opportunity 2 would be that they have arrived at some zoo and lived out their life there, and that would be the best possible outcome. This allows them to actually get a fighting chance to survive in the wild. But this trial was not a success before 2001, when 2 of the previously released orphan chimpanzees chose to make a little baby together, and therefore actually have not just been a part of the population in the wild, but added to the population in the wild, which is such an important part of this whole idea of reintroducing animals. Which is very fascinating because this specific study actually started helping another animal, being the black and white ruffed lemur on Madagascar, where you took lemurs from captivity and reintroduced them in a group. So you have domesticated pet or from zoos lemurs that you then put in a group together and reintroduce together, so it wouldn't be one alone with, against all of the wild. But it was successful in taking these captive, bred in captivity animals for lemurs and putting them out on Madagascar, where they actually, some of them did introduce themselves in native groups or troops, and some of them made their own troops, where we can see it is possible not only to reintroduce animals but also introduce animals. And for primates specifically, it will make such a big change in the future that we have found this possibility. I will stop ranting here. Again, there's much more I could go into, but I simply do not have the time. So for you, enjoy the cinematics. Again, links below. Please go and read more if you want more information, because there is so many good articles. I just took one up here and I didn't have time to go through even half. So yeah, just know that a lot of people out there are currently working on helping these animals. And if you want to be a part of it, there's also links to whatever. It's not a page where you can donate here, but there is places where you can go and help out if you want to. Okay guys, that's all I got for you today, and I hope that was enough. I know it was a long one, but here we are, and I really love it, and I hope you liked it too. So as always guys, you know the drill. Like, subscribe, and turn on the bell notification so you know the next time I upload a video. I really hope to see you again, either in the comments below or in the next video. Bye guys.